everyone, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Rafa Razik and welcome to another video. This video le first thena parayanengile kaina videos like മലയാളത്തിൽ മലയാളം ഇൻക്ലൂഡ് ചെയ്തതുകൊണ്ട് കുറേ പേര് മെസ്സേജ് ചെയ്യലുണ്ട്. അതായത് നമുക്ക് ലാംഗ്വേജ് മനസ്സിലാവുന്നില്ല എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞിട്ട്. അപ്പോൾ അത് എനിക്ക് ആക്ച്വലി ഐ എം ഹാപ്പി ബിക്കോസ് മലയാളീസ് മാത്രമല്ല നമ്മളെ വീഡിയോസൊക്കെ കാണുന്നതെന്നുള്ളതിൽ ഐ എം റിയലി ഹാപ്പി അൽഹംദുലില്ലാ. അപ്പോൾ അതുകൊണ്ട് മാത്രം ദിസ് വീഡിയോ ഇസ് ഗോയിങ് ടു ബി ഇൻ ഇംഗ്ലീഷ് ഇൻഷാല്ലാ. അത് ഈ ഒരു റീസൺ കൊണ്ട് മാത്രമാണ്. അപ്പോൾ അതൊന്ന് പ്ലീസ് അണ്ടർസ്റ്റാൻഡ്. അപ്പോൾ മലയാളം അറിയായിട്ടല്ല ഇംഗ്ലീഷ് സംസാരിക്കുന്നത്, അത് ആദ്യമേ പറയാം, അതിൻ്റെ ഒരു ഇത് വേണ്ടെന്ന് വിചാരിച്ചിട്ട്. ടുഡേയ്സ് വീഡിയോ ഇസ് എ Q&A session. We have decided to split this section into two segments. I'll be answering those questions which I think might be informative. Not going too much with the personal questions because I think knowing that doesn't benefit you all in any way. So the question is, tell us about your architecture projects, and also a related question is, while studying architecture, could you tell us the story or the inspiration that came to you for calligraphy? Anyway, so regarding the projects I have done, initially I was working under a company, under an architect for 2 to 3 years, and after that I started some freelance projects due to certain situations, and that's when I started doing projects completely my own, where I could bring my taste alone. So in that way I enjoyed that. Freelancing was good and it was more exciting too to me. Even if it's a bridal bedroom or a small project, I think every detail, when you put your hand into every detail and then when it comes out perfectly, then I think you really feel content. I will just reveal humbly some projects that I've done, and I don't claim that they're really good. I don't take a lot of projects because I don't get the time to do it, so I do it step by step. So I thought I have already revealed all these projects on Instagram, but if anybody is not on Instagram and wants to see, can watch it here. how calligraphy came along with architecture. So basically, I was not into calligraphy during my course. Around 2 years back, I think I did my first canvas art for my husband's home, and that's how I think I started doing Arabic calligraphy on canvas. I was not confident enough to hand over to somebody. Back in school, we used to have Arabic as language, and it used to be one of my favorite languages to learn and to write and everything. And I used to love that language, and same way my handwriting would be something which I would concentrate and do. So I think that might be a trace that came along for me to have an interest in Arabic calligraphy. And also my mother used to do calligraphy, Arabic calligraphy. She used to do a lot of wall arts back then, but again back then she didn't have a base like professional rule-based course. Nothing was done, but she was really good at what she was doing. So I think I used to see that, and sometimes I used to help her do that, and it all came from her. And the interest came from her. And I think gradually it's actually the people, small count of people who followed me, who actually gave me an opportunity to bring it across. Now I am more worried to do Arabic calligraphy, thinking about the mistakes I'm going to make, because now that I know that it is wrong, and that makes me scared. I know this is not the right stroke, and then I get worried, how do I make it right? It's not easy. Like, even if you know something is wrong, it's not easy to get it right with your hand, because I think it's difficult to get a stroke perfectly is only by practice, and that takes a lot of time and patience. Then somebody asked me, who's your inspiration, your inspirational person? So many people in so many aspects. There are so many amazing architects whose works I drool over, and I wonder, when will I ever do something like this? Yeah, so there are so many people. And regarding Arabic calligraphy too, like when I see some beautiful strokes, I'm like, oh my god, when can I do this? Like, I have to work really hard, I have to keep doing. And then as an overall inspiration, it's definitely my dad and my mom, because they have mastered multitasking. Like they are the ones who actually made me feel that multitasking is possible. Like, if you find time, maybe you might think you don't find time, but then somehow they both find time for everything. The question was, what are those tiny flying things that we all put in calligraphy? Yeah, so that's called, that is what I meant by embellishment. Again, all these questions will be answered based on my suggestion and my preference and my knowledge. Embellishments are of three types. One is compulsory embellishment. So compulsory embellishment means, for example, if you're writing bait means house in Arabic, ba, ya, ta. So whatever is necessary to form that word, those are the embellishments that are must. Or the dots, then the shed, if you have a word with shedda, because without that shedda, the word is not correctly written. So in that way, those are compulsory embellishments. Then there is something called optional embellishment. So in optional embellishments, you have if you're writing bait, you can have fatha, kasra and dhamma. Now, I don't know if you'll be wondering what these are. So that is why I always say, if you want to do Arabic calligraphy, you need to know a bit of Arabic, like at least to read and write Arabic. So those who know that will definitely understand what I've said right now. And there is another optional embellishment that is called clarification embellishment. For example, you might see tiny meme and scene at places in certain verses or in certain rendering. So that is basically to confirm or tell us that, clarify that that is the word there. So I think for Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim, you see that to tell you that meme is there and it's clarified. So that is another optional embellishment. Then the third one is ornamental embellishment. Now ornamental embellishments are totally for ornamentation and for beautification and for depth, as far as I know. So in those you can see something like a bird, that is mizan. Then there's something called like this, it's dukkan. Next question is regarding calligraphy and A4 sheet. So somebody asked me, so what happens when you write calligraphy on an A4 sheet? with calligraphy ink. You need a smooth basis, you need a smooth paper. So A4 sheets are usually bond papers. So using papers like A4 sheets, then these what do you call that, sketchbook sheets, all these are papers which don't have a smooth surface. So what happens is, when you try to write, first thing, you don't get a smooth, you won't be able to write it smooth. Second thing is, it absorbs all the ink. Like calligraphy ink or any diluted ink, mainly calligraphy ink gets absorbed on these papers, and that is the reason that you cannot move forward. As simple as that. So make sure that you get papers which are smooth. And regarding smooth papers, like the authentic smooth papers can be bought from various sources. I won't be able to list out all that here, because I know a few, and maybe you all know more than that. There are people who directly purchase from Turkey, Indonesia, etc. There are people who import. There are people who find dealers and order. But they are called as hemp papers, ahar papers, because these papers are coated in egg whites, and even if it's a rough paper, you can make it smooth by varnishing, or maybe by adding egg white, and all these processes are done for these authentic papers. So if you want to practice, what you can do is, you can take a smooth glossy paper, photo papers, magazine papers, you get all that in stationery stores. But that was to practice. But for my proper practice, I'm used to using graph books now. You all know the artist Selim Khan. He was the one who introduced graph books to me, and that's when I started practicing on graph books, because graph books are smooth as well as good for practice. It has rules, it has rulers and guidelines, which makes it easier for you to practice initially. And apart from that, you can do on these smooth papers. So try to get these. There are sources now. I think there are so many sources now, and if you all know, you can actually send me details so that we can share it with others who all want to purchase, inshallah. Which column is best? Initially I started with, when I had no idea what to do with calligraphy, I would just use any tool that had a chisel. It could be a marker, it could be anything, and that's exactly why I don't like using them anymore, because I don't get the perfect strokes there. So regarding column, initially I used Indian bamboo columns. Indian bamboo columns are reasonable. If you get hatta, the bamboo stick, you can actually do it on your own, and that's reasonable and cheap also. So if somebody who wants to totally practice it in the beginning, you can use Indian bamboo columns. That's made of Indian bamboo. Then I have tried Java columns. That is a little expensive, I think, and they are really good. Then I have tried Indonesian hand-hem columns. So Indonesian hand-hem columns are similar to Indian bamboo columns. The difference is, this is made from Indonesian wood called hand-hem, and the other one is made of Indian bamboo. Then all these I've tried, but currently which I use regularly is the Turkish Selly columns, because Turkish Selly columns, I've heard that it's really good. And also initially I was a little hesitant to buy that, because I thought it was a little expensive. It was 5,000 6,000 bucks for a set. But again, if you're using it regularly, and if you're somebody who's into this, then that's a catch. So that's how I finally decided to buy that, and I think that's one of the good decisions I made, because now I don't use any of the other columns. I only use Selly Turkish columns. I've heard that there are Turkish Selly columns which are of 2-3 types: handmade, machine made, and all that. If you want to start or try with, use these bamboo columns or hand-hem columns, and once you really start getting interested, and once you really get into this, then buy the higher columns. Then you will not stop doing it, because there's no point in buying a Turkish Selly column first itself if you don't want to continue with this art. So that's the only point why I recommend this. And if there's something wrong in whatever I've said here, please send me a mail regarding that. Okay, so I don't assure that all these are perfectly right, but I've learned this from an authentic source.